Hi, I'm Mark Yegi. Welcome to my channel. And I'm just going to riff for a little bit. This is a channel about AI. And I believe it's the most transformative technology in the history of mankind. I think you probably would agree with me if you know about it. And at this point, who hasn't heard about ChatGPT or any of the other frontier models or even some of the other models that are coming out? I use it in almost everything I do. I'm pretty much subscribed to like all the ones that you could possibly think of, probably about 20 different AI things and models and production things. And I'll be telling you about that as we go forward. I'll also tell you the implications of the industry itself. I'm really into AI, like I mentioned, but I'm into it because I think it's transformative for our everyday lives, and it's also transformative for human beings in general. Now, there are some potential downsides to AI, and should we be scared? Well, I don't know. People were scared of, replacing horses with cars, and then they said, people can't withstand going more than 30 miles an hour; they'll explode, and people can't go to space because they'll get irradiated. And we have all these fears, and I think AI has a lot of fears around it. And we have to kind of have some guardrails, but it does so many cool things. And I'll give you a couple of ideas. I've used AI to help me write some books, and I've leaned on it a lot. It helps clean up my writing. It's not like proofreading grammar anymore. I know my grammar is pretty much right. Yeah, you have to kind of steer it on the way it writes so it's not AI sounding, it's more human sounding, but it does take your ideas and it does help you build them in a much faster, more efficient way. That's just on the content side. Most people use it as kind of a glorified search engine. And that's what I've been using AI for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And in the beginning, it was a really cool, glorified search engine. Then it started to take on some personality, and then you could start to have conversations with certain models. And then they started to improve those personalities and it started to get really scary. But now we're all kind of used to that, right? I talk to my AI all the time. In fact, I'll tell you about some of the AIs I have in just a second. So, we have some really cool tools in front of us, not just for search anymore, right? It's moved into something called agentic AI, which means you have your little agents working for you, right? And now I've got an agent called Hermes, and Hermes uses a bunch of different AIs and a bunch of sub-agents. I tell it, say, I call him Jerry after Jerry Seinfeld. My whole team is named after the Seinfeld characters. But I say, hey, Jerry, listen, spin up a swarm of agents and have them go research this topic and come back to me with a report. And now you don't have to wait for them in series. You can do them all in parallel. They talk to each other, and then I have them come back to one certain person, and they vet the ideas and give it back to Jerry. See how I just called him a person, right? That's what's happening. And so there are so many cool things to do. I use them to do videos. To actually make a clone of me. I've done some clone videos. I've actually cloned something out of an idea I had in my head. I have a channel. This channel here is helping small businesses move to AI because we all know we need to move to AI. We probably just don't have the time to do it, or we don't know exactly what steps to take. And what I'm doing is I've created a curriculum and I've created consulting, and I like to help people, learn something to go from A to maybe not to Z, but at least to L or M, okay? And so as I've learned these things and I've done these things, I've been able to create, like I was saying a second ago, this AI character. So I basically described to AI what this character in my brain looked like and said, create this character. A lot of people are doing that with these AI influencers and girls and OnlyFans and all this other stuff. That's not my bag. But I did create this kind of good-looking accounting type of guy, and he's a character that does videos, and it looks really cool. So I had him create a character out of my head using text, and then it took that character and it made some side shots and all that kind of stuff, and then I put him into a program called HeyGen. And HeyGen has created a living, quote unquote, being on video, right? And so that person teaches some of my courses. And you could say what you want, but if you use it right, it's a way to leverage yourself. Okay? Any AI is a way to leverage yourself if you use it right. If you don't use it right, well, then it's just a glorified search engine, or it takes you away from what you're normally doing, and it can be negative. But if you use it right, it is leverage. So anyway, we've moved from kind of this, hey, how do I do this recipe or whatever? Now we've got music. Somebody made a song about my investment courses, because I have another channel for investment courses. And they made an AI song. It was fantastic. Sounded like Ed Sheeran, right? And so we do videos, we have audios, we have voice clones, and we have website development, and all these different kinds of things. We use AI to increase and improve the leverage that we have in business, right? If you own a house, chances are you've probably got a mortgage on it. Why do you have the mortgage, right? Well, you probably didn't have the $500,000 to write the check maybe that day when you bought the house. Maybe you did, hopefully you did. Or $1 million to buy the house, but you might have had the $200,000 to put down, or the $100,000 to put down. The leverage got you what you needed, right? It's the same thing with AI. It's the leverage that gets you what you need. And so I think it's the coolest thing. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm running this thing called Hermes. Now, Hermes is a harness. It's an agent, and it's a self-improving agent. And this is where things are going, right? We're all going to have our own agents, our own assistants. Basically, you tell it what to do, and you give it the parameters, your voice, the way you think, those kinds of things, and it comes back with the results. It's fantastic. It's a lot of work that you need to do to get it set up right now, but it's improving. AI is improving every single day. So what is going on in the investment landscape? And I think it's really interesting. Maybe you will too, but let's talk about it. So ChatGPT is owned by a company called OpenAI, which is founded by a guy named Sam Altman. Sam Altman was a partner of Elon Musk's when OpenAI was this idea. Okay, it was an open artificial intelligence. And so the idea was that it was going to help humanity by being open. It was a nonprofit that Elon Musk, I think, put in $38 million or something like that to make this thing work. And then Sam Altman apparently took it and turned it into a for-profit. Now, I don't know how much of that's true and how much it isn't true. It's all kind of in court and out of court, and it's part of the whole saga of what's going on. But Elon Musk is also doing something called SpaceX AI. So SpaceX owns some AI properties. You might have heard of Grok, that's associated with X.com, formerly Twitter. So Elon Musk wants to put computing centers up in the space because it's cooler up there. It's cheaper to run things. You don't need electricity up there because the sun's there, that kind of thing. So we've got those two, but those aren't the two leaders. The big leader is OpenAI with ChatGPT. And then one of the guys left ChatGPT and he started Anthropic. And that's what you hear called Claude now. Claude and ChatGPT, or Claude and OpenAI, are constantly like in this two-headed race. So they are using what's called frontier models. Okay, they're on the frontier. They're moving things forward. They're setting the tone, right, for what's going on in AI. But there are other models now are becoming threatening to them. And now they're each worth about $1 trillion. I think it's getting lower now because there's what I'm about to tell you. So then we've got Elon Musk's xAI. We've got Meta doing their AI. And then now we've got what are called open source models, right? So Android, if you ever use an Android tablet or a phone, that's an open source model. Very cheap because it's built and maintained by the community, right? Rather than Apple's closed source model, and you can't really get into it, right? So the open source models are used by everybody and they're contributed to by everyone. And a new open source model just hit. So you're kind of now up to speed here in the middle of July. We just had an open source model hit. It's the largest model. It's like 28 trillion parameters. That's that's a huge number, right? How many books and movies and articles and research and anything humanity has done is being fed into this gigantic model. Well, that takes a lot of compute, right? It takes a lot of computers. That's why all these data centers need to go up. But they now have open sourced the model, which means you and I, if we have a big enough computer, we can put it on our computer and we can run it. Okay? We don't have to pay them. Now, we'll probably be paying them because we don't have the big enough computer to run it. We need to pay them for compute. But it's an interesting thing, right? When an open source model is now one of the frontier models. So we've got, it's called Kimi K from a company called Moonshot. It's a Chinese company. So we've got Kimi K, OpenAI and their ChatGPT and Codex product. We've got the Claude and the Fable 5 new programs and Mythos and all this government stuff. The question is, how's it getting regulated? You can be afraid of it, but if you're afraid of it, doesn't mean it's going to stop it. And we're not. We think we're great, like we own the world, but we don't in the United States. We own the United States, right? And so if we regulate it in the United States, the rest of the world will shoot by us, and that's what's going on. We now have Kimi K 3.0 being the number one strongest model over the two that are the OGs, right? The originals. And so that's a problem, or is it? The competition, I think, is wonderful. I think, the regulation is an interesting component, and we'll see how that all evolves. But what's happening is a couple more trends, and then I'll leave you, and thank you for, sitting here for 11 minutes already. But the concept is computers are now doing what's called recursive self-improvement, RSI. And what that means is, I'm always improving. So my Hermes agent is always like at the end of every conversation is like self-improvement loop, and it goes into a loop and it says, what did I learn? How can I bring that to the next conversation? Well, the same thing is going on with these AI models. They're saying, how can I improve? How can I design a better chip that's more for what I do and how I think is a better way to architect this thing? And they're starting to design their own chips. That's scary. And they're starting to design their own intelligence, right? So all of these things are starting to happen. And when the chips and all the information that we know as humans and as engineers especially starts to going in to, improving yourself, your chip, your environment, it's going to be exponential. And it already is. You're probably safe. If you follow AI at all, you see it's like every week somebody's coming out with a new model. It's, ChatGPT 4.6, and then it's ChatGPT 5.0, and then it's 5.3, and and then once one comes out, the other company comes out with another one. And so that's good for humanity, right? We have competition. It's really good for humanity. So, all right, I'll wrap this up by saying, I hope you check back, subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to do some regular updates on this. My goal is to help people understand AI and how it can help them in their everyday life. So I'll probably, be carving out little niches about things to talk about and how it can affect you, right? Everybody talks about some of these grandiose ideas, and they talk about CLIs and MCPs, and they throw all these things out at you. I don't want to do that. I probably might slip and do that. But my goal is so you can follow along and understand there's always news in AI, and I'm going to try to bring you the best possible news. And if you can apply it to your business, and I believe that professionals really need this, like accountants and lawyers, because they're so busy doing their accounting, their lawyering, their dentistry, their vetting, if they're a veterinarian. Small professional businesses really need this because it can help you in marketing. It helps you in communication. It helps you in organization. It helps you in content. It can help you in management. It can help you legally. It can do a lot of different things that before now we weren't able to get help on. And now it's at our fingertips for $20 a month, or even some of the free models that are out there for nothing, right? For the cost of typing. So I'm excited about AI. I hope you could tell. I hope you're excited about it and you embrace it, because it is a part of our lives, and it will be a huge part of our lives soon. Right? One quick story. I just read something about how they're strapping these phones to people's heads in some country in Asia. And why are they doing that? These are people that are folding clothes and they're cleaning the house, and they're training the robots. They're training the AI, which will run the robots for us. So in a couple of years, I know it seems crazy, we might be able to buy our own robot or lease our own robot for $100 a month, whatever, that'll be able to fold our clothes, do our laundry, mow our yard, give us a massage. I don't know about that one. We'll see. And from a personal standpoint, that's pretty cool. Maybe even cook us meals. That's pretty good for $99 a month. I would do that, I think. And so that's the power of it. It's available to almost everybody now. And I think you're going to see a lot more robotics. You're going to see a lot more AI. You're going to see a lot more development around it. And who knows what the future will bring. But I can tell you it's changing very fast. And if you're not keeping up with it, you're actually falling backwards. I'll leave you with this analogy. Imagine there's 10 horses in a race and one horse gets out and he goes all the way around the track, halfway around the track, and then all the other gates open. Do you think those horses are ever going to catch up to that horse before that horse wins? The answer is no, right? Not unless he trips and falls or is a very slow horse at that point, right? And that's what AI is. And if you're not keeping up with that horse, you're falling behind. Because by the time that horse has won the race, you're only halfway through it. And so I think you need to embrace it. I think you need to spend some time with it. I think you need to get involved with it, have some fun with it, learn about it. And I think it's going to be a big part of our future. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.